Hi, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Hannycast, brought to you by one of our many sponsors. But tonight, it's Lake Urgent Care. With 26 years of experience, Lake Urgent Care is dedicated to providing quality care close to home. We treat minor illnesses and injuries for ages 3 months and up at 16 convenient locations, including Baton Rouge, Hammond, Livingston Parish, and Ascension Parish. Plus, we offer occupational health and weight loss solutions. As a seamless extension of the Our Lady of the Lake, patients can access care from anywhere with MyChart Patient Portal. Our urgent care centers are open 7 days a week. Simply walk in, check in online, or schedule a virtual care visit at lakeurgentcare.com. And folks, we got a special treat this week. The treat isn't that Charlie Hannegriff is on vacation. I'm Dan Canevari, and I'm taking over for Charlie. The treat is we got the color voice of the LSU Tiger baseball, Doug Thompson. Doug, how are you doing today?
Great, Cano. Great. Filling in for a legend with Charlie being out today, and great to visit with you, of course, my old coach.
Well, we got Doug is with us today, and we're looking forward to having Doug in weekly to have a little segment, little Thompson's take on the weekend, and so we're looking forward to having Doug with us on the show. But Doug, did you travel out there this weekend? Were you out in Texas?
No, I was in Houston, Texas, but to watch my oldest son play baseball. So no, I did not. Did not get a chance to watch them live, but I listened and watched as much as I could.
Well, I tell you what, I caught a lot of the games this weekend, and of course, how'd your son do, by the way, this tournament?
We learned some lessons. You never lose. We always learn something. So no, he did good, and just got to keep on working, man.
Yeah, we're all in that baseball business. Baseball, we never leave it. But Doug, first to start it off, we played on a Wednesday night and played at the second game of the week. We played on Monday and then came back and played on Wednesday night against Dallas Baptist right there at Globe Life Park. Your thoughts on the game? Because the bottom line for me is the story of the game was Connor Ware and his starting pitching performance for 4 innings.
Well, I mean that, and they came back, to win the game there, um, to from behind 3-1, which is a sign of a championship team. I think Dallas Baptist is the most formidable opponent they've faced yet, and I agree with you. I mean, we've seen Connor Ware, I think once before that, but I think we saw what they see in Connor Ware. He was dominant, 6 strikeouts, no walks through 4 innings. Um, the pitching again up until that last game on Sunday has looked pretty strong throughout the season. But Connor Ware shows not only that he can go in there and hold down a pretty good lineup, but 4 innings of work, like he can extend himself as well. So I think it was good to see him. And then Kason Evans came in and was dominant to slam the door in that game over the final 2 innings.
Yeah, Connor Ware came from junior college with a lot of high expectations. Talking to some scouts and people that had seen him pitch at the junior college, he had an opportunity to go pro, but again turned it down to come to LSU. But Doug, I know you and I, we pitching coach, talk pitching all the time. The bottom line is when a guy goes out there gives up one run, a homer,
Yeah.
and the rest of the time there's no walks and 6 strikeouts. That's a good thing, especially from a left-handed pitcher.
Well, and that's been the story of the year so far. I mean, 135 strikeouts and 39 walks, which is a little higher actually than I thought it would be. But still, I mean, that's a pretty good ratio, 3.5 to 1 as a staff. And of course, 10 of those walks were in the last game on Sunday, so it's kind of even skewed in that regard. But to me, the big number in these starting pitchers is walks. I mean, these guys. Anderson has walked 6 in his 15 innings of work. Shores has walked 5 in his 15 innings of work, and Einson has only walked 3 in his 17 innings of work. So if you can get through the first 4 or 5 innings of every game and only issue 1 or 2 free passes along that time, you got a chance to win the game. So um, I think LSU. I think that's the key to this pitching staff. Not only do they have the stuff that's really suffocating in terms of 95 plus all day long, whoever you bring in, seemingly, but they pound the strike zone.
On offense, looking at the Tigers, of course, scored 7 runs in that ball game. Really, the highlight in my mind, Derek Courier leading off. I think that was a good jolt for the Tigers. 3 at bats. He scored 3 runs. He's got 2 walks, 2 hits. You can't ask much more than that from a leadoff hitter, especially a freshman.
No, and I mean, it looked like he stayed there, right? The whole 4 game series
Right.
on the road. Yeah.
Looks
So,
like
I mean,
he's
I think,
anchored into that spot.
yeah. And you got Jones right behind him pretty much the whole weekend as well, right?
Yeah, and Jones in that ball game, he's behind him. He's 2 for 4 with a run and an RBI. So again, top of the lineup producing runs, either RBIs or runs. Another story, a guy I really like. I think he's just going to be a solid, great performer all year. Is Daniel Dickinson at second base? He was on fire this weekend. He's been very consistent in my mind at the plate, but just against Dallas Baptist, 2 for 5, but had 3 RBIs and scored a run, so he counted for 4 runs in 5 at bats.
Yeah, I mean, so far 366 on the year, 683 slugging. He's only drawn 6 walks. He's only struck out 4 times though, and he's right up there at the top of the team in on base percentage at 520. So he's getting it done, but he also looks good defensively. I mean, he made
Yeah.
some nice plays over the course of this last week. He seems like a gamer. Like again, one of those guys. There's 4 guys that have started all 12 games, and that's Dickinson, Milam, Jones, and Curiel. So that may be an indicator of at least those 4 are going to be in every lineup that you see. I think Braswell will be right behind them, and Stanfield, of course, as well.
Well, and the thing is, the next guy I was going to mention in that ball game, Stephen Milam, starting to heat up on this weekend. Texas was good to
Mhm.
him. Went 2 for 5, scored a run, and then of course Jake Brown had 2 hits, didn't score, didn't get an RBI, but Jake Brown started to heat up. So that was a good lead up, into the heading off to Frisco, Texas for the Frisco Classic. But again, also brought to you by Marucci. From a backyard shed to the top of the game, Marucci is more than just a baseball bat company. It's a legacy built on passion and precision. With 2 decades of crafting the finest wood, metal, and leather in the sport, we're here to help you run the game. Visit MarucciSports.com to gear up with the best. That's Marucci Sports. And Doug, you're a supporter of Marucci. See the hat
Of
right there.
course, of course. Teammates, Kurt, former teammate, Joe Lawrence, one of my dear friends, and what a story, the Marucci story. Watching over the years, man, just incredible. Watching him start from Kurt's backyard, all the way to owning, 15 buildings, 15 warehouses now that are completely full with their products. So it's such a great story, and I'm their number one fan.
Yeah, well, I'm right there with you. And when you say Kurt's backyard, he built a little shed in his back to start making
Mhm.
bats. But before then, across the street, my backyard neighbor was Jack Marucci, of course, the trainer and a good friend. And I was actually in the shed that he built the first bat for his son Gino, because he didn't want to buy that aluminum bat and he liked the wood. And so he said, I'll make you one. And it all started right there. So what a great story, Marucci Sports. But let's talk about a great ball game, probably the best game of the weekend anywhere. uh, 8-5 win over Kansas State. Josh Pearson lined the 10th inning single to break a 5-5 tie, spark a 3-run outburst, a back and forth game the whole way. Dickinson led LSU with an 11-hit attack, and he went 2 for 4 at the plate with a 3-run homer and 6 RBIs. So kudos to him. But Doug, your take on Cade Anderson, the Friday night guy, looking very strong.
Yeah, I mean, gave up 3 hits and a couple runs, but 10 strikeouts in 5 innings. I mean, that's getting it done. And he proved again that he's worthy of that Friday night role. He's as good a left-hander as you'll find in college baseball. We're certainly lucky to have him. And of course, that game came down to the great defensive play. Fundamental baseball. Can't know how often do we work on those cutoffs and
Oh
relays
gosh.
over and over and over again over the course of a year. You probably work on it 100 times, and the play actually happens 5, 10 times a year. But what a perfect throw from Pearson to Milam, who of course received it perfectly and threw a bullet to home. And I think it was Aaron Beatty on the tag, but just a great play to save the game. I mean, game's over there if you don't convert that play. So look, they got it done, man. They got the timely hits. Um, I think I was talking to you, and in fact, everywhere that I had an opportunity to share my thoughts, I've said, the pitchers are going to be there like that. That's going to play all year, unless something crazy happens and they just can't find the strike zone. the arms, the talent, the depth. It's really kind of unheard of almost how deep this staff is. So the pitching is going to keep us in games, but my thoughts were that before this series, before this 4 game road trip, if you will, um, we could. How do you know? How do you know if we're going to be able to really get the hits? I mean, we scored 40 runs in the first 4 games and got 50 hits, and but look, we did it on the road. We had to come from behind. I think twice we had to come from behind, and offensively they did get the job done. They got the hit when it mattered. So it's about timely hitting and great defense. And timely hitting, great defense, and great pitching, they say, is the ultimate combination for a championship team. And look, it's still early. And I know Jay Johnson is probably the first one to downplay what happened over the last week. But if those are the grades of a championship team, that's what we saw this weekend from LSU.
Well, remember our boss, Skip Bertman, what's he say? The number one way to win a game is dominant pitching.
Yeah.
Number two way is timely hitting, and LSU had both in that game. Cade Anderson probably, great line five and a third innings. Only gave up 2 runs, both earned, 3 hits, 3 walks, 10 strikeouts. I think for Jay Johnson, where Cade Anderson's going, he kind of hit the wall in the sixth. They're stretching him out, but to get him to 92 pitches is good as we head into the weekends. He's got to stretch that out and try to get that pitch count up there. Doug, one of the things I see about Cade that is just amazing to me, but not really amazing, but it's something you can't explain. Yeah, he throws the ball 92, 93 from the left side, but he's got a swing and miss fastball. Like some guys, they touch the ball, and some guys, like he's throwing 92, but it looks like he's throwing 98. And guys just swing and miss at his fastball. And that's great because with that curveball and now developing a changeup and a little bit of a slider, cutter type pitch, that's got to be very difficult to hit. Explain to people if you can, Doug, because I can't explain it, how that is that some guys just they don't hit his fastball.
Well, I think Cade's one of those guys that has what they call induced vertical breaks. So the ball actually rises a little bit, right? It actually rides up in the strike zone. And when you couple that with, I think the over the fall, I want to say the most swung and missed pitch overall in the team was Cade Anderson's slider. So uh,
It's nasty. That's a nasty out pitch. That's a
yeah,
wipeout
so
slider.
when you consider that he's got this slider that had the most swing and misses in the fall, and then a fastball that doesn't get hit very often either. Remember Ty Floyd kind of had the same kind of rising fastball. That's what Cade Anderson has. So yeah, I mean he's about as good as they come. I mean he really is. And that game, unfortunately, the only blemish was DJ Primo's coming in the game and hitting the 2 guys and of course making it much closer than it probably should have been. But other than that, again, Case and Evans, 2 innings, 3 hits, 3 strikeouts. I mean, he's about as good as they get out of the bullpen. So
Hasn't given up an
um,
earned run yet.
no, no. So
And
uh,
Maverick Rizzi, I thought Maverick Rizzi, we were expecting some things, kind of had a downturn there, struggled a little bit, but again, just a freshman, but because he's so big and huge, you think he's like a senior. But I think he's going to work his way in there, get through that rough outing.
yeah, I mean, look, every pitcher this season will have a rough outing. That's just the way they go. I mean, that's what I was so shocked about in the opening weekend against Purdue Fort Wayne. I mean, like everybody had their stuff. Everybody got the job done. I mean, they only walked like 2 that whole weekend or 3. Um, so, dude, Maverick Riffy's 6'10", and he throws close to 100 miles an hour. So,
Yeah, that's pretty
yeah,
sick.
to your point, I don't think I would hit the panic button too quickly. I mean, he's got 5 appearances, which is right up there at the top of the team lead. So that shows you how much confidence Jay Johnson has in him.
Yeah, looking on the offensive side, of course, Couriel leading off. He got 2 walks, 1 hit, had an RBI, scored a run. Jared Jones did his usual, 2 for 4, scored a run, 2 walks. But the guy, that player of the game, Daniel Dickinson, again, like I said, he's coming on strong, 2 for 4, scored a run at 6 RBIs, which that's a team gets 6 RBIs. That's a heck of a weekend.
Yeah,
And
that's a couple big RBI games now for him. I want to say he had one earlier already this year with 5
right.
RBI.
Well, and then Milam again getting hot, scored a run, 2 for 5. Jake Brown was getting hot, 2 for 5, scored a run, and then Stanfield started to come on as we got into Frisco. 1 for 2, scored 2 runs, had a walk, and he's batting 345. So he's starting to make a contribution, and that speed puts a lot of fear in the pitchers and the catchers on the other team. So good outing for the Fighting Tigers against Kansas State. Great ball game. And then we move into Saturday. But before we move into Saturday, Bayou Apparel has been helping local businesses communicate their message since 2009. As one of only a few local LSU official licensees, Bayou Apparel offers the highest quality products to showcase your brand. Whether you have an established brand or not, Bayou Apparel design experts can help you create an eye-catching design that fits your company's message. We do logos, event t-shirts, and promotional items for your business. Call 225-928-9090 or go to the website at www.bayouapparel.com. So, Doug, we move into game number 2, LSU going against Nebraska, and got off to a shaky start. Went down 5-0.
Yep.
Ianson on the mound, and got down 5-0. But then he got it under control and did what all pitchers must do. And you know this better than anybody. You might not go out there with your best stuff. You may get out there and the inevitable 2 takes place. You don't have your release point, umpire strike zone, other teams' adrenaline. All those things are there. But he fought through it. Jay Johnson showed a lot of support, maybe because he had 4 games in 5 days. But the bottom line is he stuck with him. He got through it. And once he got past, the 3rd inning, he was lights out. And that shows his competitiveness and the quality of the pitcher that Ianson is.
Yeah, you mentioned that every pitcher needs to be able to do that, but in particular, your starter. I mean, especially once it gets into the SEC. I mean, if you go out there and you get touched up in the 1st inning, like you said, I think you said something important there. Jay stuck with him,
Right.
and that showed that he really has confidence in Ianson to be one of the top 3 starters. And for the kid to settle down and get through 6 innings was pretty good after 3 in the 1st and then giving up a run in the 2nd and the 3rd. So he showed competability, his ability to pitch under duress and keep his team in the game. I mean, he had to get through those first 3 innings to even get a run on the board for LSU. So it was 5-0 through 3 for him. So I've been there, and waiting for your team to score when you've already given up the lead sometimes feels pretty desperate. And you're all you can do is all you can do. But for him to go up there and toss 3 zeros 4 through the 6th inning shows me that he's a winner. Like he's gonna go out there and grind. But it also shows me that Jay Johnson really does believe in Anthony Ianson.
Well, I'll tell you what, he gave up 7 hits. He gave up 4 hits in 1 inning. And the law of average says that's not supposed to happen. I mean, it's hard to get
Yeah.
4 hits. You're
Yeah.
supposed to get 2 hits an inning, 2 hits an inning, and it's supposed to be over. It's got to go to somebody sooner or later. I think, we said it all along, but Ianson, only 1 walk and 7 strikeouts. The fact that he kept throwing strikes kept him in the game and got him to figure it out. And of course, later on, the law of average took over. So he gave up 6. He gave up a hit an inning in his outing, but they just all happened to come in bunches. Do you think that had a lot to do with the adrenaline? Watching the Cornhuskers, they came out like they were playing the World Series and had a lot of adrenaline. I think that had something to do with that hot start they had. They fed off each other.
Well, of course, I think that the adrenaline in the opposing dugout against LSU has been like that for the last 35, 40 years. And I think that's why Coach Bertman used to make us aware of the inevitable too. They're going to be ready to roll. They're going to be as excited as they'll be the whole game, as focused. The umpire doesn't know yet. You haven't quite found your release point yet. But yeah, I think, and sometimes that inevitable two can turn to the inevitable 5. And it happens sometimes. It's in particular with teams playing against LSU or any of the blue blood programs. I mean, for Nebraska, that was a massive game. That was the game that they talked about all fall. Can't wait to play LSU at Frisco. Let's circle that one on our calendars. So they were able to endure that, and they were able to continue to fight. And that 6-run 7th inning not only win the game, but win it in convincing fashion, kind of the way it should have ended up, 11-6. So 17 hits in that game to pick up that starter who did have a rough first inning.
One of the good things, no errors. And it goes, if you don't walk people, you don't make errors. It makes it very, very difficult to lose. I mean, it's hard to lose if you do those two things. But then again, I'm going to mention this. Zach Cowan pitched on Wednesday, did a pretty good job in relief, against the Dallas Baptist, and then comes in on a Saturday and gives you 2 innings, 4 hits, but only gave up 1 earned run. And he got an earned run average of 1.80. Shows he can bounce back. He can give you some out eater innings and keep you in the ball game. I think he's a guy that's shown with his experience, from Wofford, being in the playoffs, being in tournaments, that he's going to be a guy that really could factor in this SEC stretch and hopefully into the postseason, where he can really be a middle guy to get you to your closer.
Yeah, he's Brian Doherty. If you know B Dot,
B dot.
one of the greatest relief pitchers in LSU history, because you knew what you were going to get. He was going to throw strikes. He was going to compete. As hard as you want someone to compete, and he was going to keep your team in the game. And Zach Cowan kind of reminds me of Brian Doherty, like just really the safe bet out of the bullpen when you need to hold the other team where they are.
I'm going to throw a couple names before you came here. David Harry and Brett McCabe did that for us
I love
back in
Dr.
the day.
McCabe.
Yeah, Dr. McCabe.
Huh.
It took him 5 years. He was like at LSU for like 27 years. But no, he was a great one for that. And so was David Harry. And those guys were great for us. Looking on the offensive side here, Curiel leading off 2 for 5, scores a run, has an RBI with a walk. Jared Jones 2 for 6 with 2 RBIs. Dickinson again 1 for 4, scored a run. But then Josh Pearson on fire. What a clutch player Pearson is. 4 for 5, 3 runs scored with an RBI. And then Milam hit behind him 3 for 6 with 2 RBIs and scored 2 runs. And Jake Brown staying hot with 2 RBIs, 1 for 4. And then, like I said before, Stanfield down at the bottom of the order, 2 for 3 with 2 ribbies and 2 runs scored. Heck of an offensive effort by the Tigers.
Yeah, don't forget about Tanner Reeves now at third
Oh
base.
yeah, the
He was two
JUCO from Blinn Junior College. He's shown that he can step in there and get some at bats for you.
Guy hit close to 30 home runs in 2 years at JUCO and batted right at 400 in his career at JUCO. Was one of the better players that to ever come out of Blinn. So watch out for Tanner Reeves. But yeah, that day was all about Josh Pearson and Milan. They were 7 for 11 right there in the 3 and 4 hole. And you talk about the 4 and 5 hole. And you talk about some of those indicators of winning games, looking at the stat sheet. Did you walk them? Did you make any errors? And then when you look at the lineup and you see that the 5 and 6 hole were a combined 7 for 11, that's also probably a pretty good
That's
indicator that you came out victorious. So,
that's a good way to
um,
win.
mhm.
Well, Doug, Dependable Storage now has 8 locations across Louisiana and 1 location in Gulfport, Mississippi. Check out the newest facilities in Slidell and Youngsville. And Dependable Storage will match any competitor pricing, offer convenient online rentals and payments, also offer free use of a moving truck for new rental move-ins. And the facilities are clean, secure, and conveniently located. As Skip would say, if you got lots of stuff, you got to put it in dependable
Accumulator,
storage.
lots of stuff. Yeah.
Lots of stuff. And check out our website, www.dependablestorage.com, for locations, pricing, and rentals. Well, Doug, let's go to the Sunday game, the Sam Houston. It was started out uh, offensive attack by the Tigers. As you look through it, 7-0 lead in the second inning for the Tigers. Another offensive attack of 13 hits, 12 runs. But Chase Shores went out there. They touched him up a little bit, but he hung in there, got to his almost 90 pitch, coming off an injury, 90 pitches, got him right. But, gave up 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts. Not his best outing, but again, Doug, they're going to happen.
Yeah, look, I don't remember who told me, but very early in my career as a pitcher, someone told me you may have 10 starts in your whole life that you actually have your stuff coming out of the bullpen, but most of the time it's a battle of figuring out how to win without your stuff. And I think that Shores, did that this weekend, which was exactly what the Tigers needed. Now, I can't find I'm not able to find the box score for
I
some
got it.
reason. The game by game is not working online. But how many walks did Shores have?
Shores had 3 walks and 5 strikeouts. Not the numbers we're used to on this year's staff, but a lot of walks in that game. There were a total of 3, 2, 5, 6, 8, 10 walks and only 6 strikeouts. Kind of a reverse of what we've been seeing. And I think that was probably why they scored 8 runs.
Uh, 8 free passes, 8 runs. That sounds about right.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially if you're giving up the hits in between. So it looks like Sam Houston had how many hits? 9 hits.
nine
So he
hits,
actually he
nine
actually
hits.
hit the ball pretty well too. So you can't walk 10 guys and only strike out 6, right? And that won't work in the SEC games.
Right.
Thankfully, our offense was able to hold the rope, if you will, with 13 hits and 12 runs. But walking 10 guys obviously won't happen. They did have 7 walks also against Kansas State. So, 19 walks in those 19 innings against Kansas State and Sam Houston, right? That that's that's an
That's too
anomaly.
many. That's too many.
If you look at the next closest number of walks in a game was 4, so it's a bit of an anomaly. But and those are going to happen. Those nights are going to happen. But I think what's important is when those nights do happen, your offense responds. And again, like I said to start this podcast, great pitching, timely hitting, wins championships, and we saw LSU do that this weekend.
When you talk about the offense, I'm going to run it through it. Derek Curiel again, 2 for 3. 2 RBIs, had 3 walks and scored a run. Jared Jones, 2 for 5 with 2 ribbies and had a run scored. Daniel Dickinson again, 2 for 5, scored 2 runs. Ethan Fry comes in, gets 3 hits, hits a homer uh, for us, and had 3 RBIs and scored a run, of course, on the homer. And then Stephen Milam again, 1 for 4, but had a homer and 2 RBI homer. And Josh Pearson, 1 for 2, scored 3 runs. Luis Hernandez has shown a bat. We haven't mentioned much
Yeah.
about him, but shown a very good bat and a good arm. I think he's thrown very, very well. In that game, he's 3 for 5 with two runs scored and a ribby. And then Stanfield down at the bottom of the order with 2 RBIs, getting 2 walks. Good offensive outing. And, of course, Josh Pearson was named the most valuable player, of the tournament, most outstanding player. He hit 667 in 3 games with 3 doubles, 2 RBIs, 7 runs, and a 769 on base percentage, which is a tremendous weekend for Josh Pearson. I think he's moved up in the Jay Johnson perspective as to that outfield, which is highly competitive in that DH spot. Ethan Fry made a step up this weekend. I think Curiel, Jones, Dickinson, Milam, Pearson, and Stanfield all made the all-tournament team.
Oh wow, wow. That's great. I think offensively, if you're Jay Johnson, I think your main concern might be that Braswell starting to get hot at some point. He's hitting below 200 still, but that guy's a 4-year player. I mean, he's been there, he's done that. So I'm not really concerned about Braswell at some point getting it moving a little bit. But other than that, with Hernandez kind of stepping on the gas a little bit, and like you said, Ethan Fry. Now you're talking about 9 or 10 guys that are showing that they can go in there and swing it, at least right now. And of course, hitting is cyclical as well. If we stayed hot all year, everybody would hit 500. But the truth is, everybody's going to hit around 300 because that's usually how it works out, right?
Well, the one thing that a coach has going for him and a team has going for him is when you have internal competition, that's the best motivator.
For
And
sure.
like you're talking about third base, right? Uh, Braswell moved over there. Well, we mentioned Tanner Reeves. Look for that to be a semi-platoon situation, lefty-righty, when you get in the SEC, even during the game. You play lefty-righty matchup. You may start out with one, move the other one in. You look at Ethan Fry, Josh Pearson could be a lefty-righty, move them in, move them out type of thing. Aaron Seaby can come in and catch. He's a freshman. He's going to be a great player. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But Hernandez is swinging the bat and doing a formidable job defensively. So again, the one thing Jay's got is internal competition, but he's got a lot of options. So somebody has a couple of bad games, he can pop somebody in there and put some adrenaline, some new life, give a guy a shot, and that makes everybody work harder at practice.
Yeah, we really haven't even talked much about Ashton Larson, who obviously can swing it. Last year, he proved that. So you're right. I mean, maybe not the abundance of riches that he has on the pitching staff, but he certainly has some options to go to when and if someone starts to falter a little bit. But I think the mainstays are Curiel, Jones, Dickinson, and Milam. I think those are the ones that we're going to see come hell or high water stay in the lineup, kind of the cornerstones, if you will. And when we talk about Josh Pearson, I don't know, man. I just think that the innings under his belt, the at bats that he's had in Omaha, the big situations, the big moments, I think that all plays now. And I just feel like he has to be part of the lineup, if not on the field, then at least in that designated hitter spot. But I definitely think Josh Pearson is a key player, a key piece of that offense.
He's a gamer. He's the guy that Jay Johnson has a lot of confidence in and should, because he's
Of
come through in
course.
so many clutch moments,
Yep.
and Doug, from the championship years and playing at LSU and being around baseball. There's certain guys that when the pressure's on, they just seem to always come through. Forget their batting average, throw it out the window. If this guy's up in a pressure situation, you need a hit. He's as good as anybody in the country to get that hit or to make that catch in Omaha, like we said. I do want to mention one more thing before we head out, and that is, what about the play up the middle with Dickinson getting the ball and flipping it to Milam and coming across and getting the out at first base? An instinct play at HWA. You can't coach it. It's one of those things you just got to feel it. And we've talked all along. Over the weekend, the Tigers only made 2 errors. Uh,
7
and
on the year.
yeah, and we've talked about,
7 through the first 12 games.
if you can play defense and you can pitch and not walk people, you are in every ball game, because we know that defense and pitching shouldn't go in a slump. But hitting can. But again, with all the options Jay has, but that staple of pitching and defense makes you sleep well at night as a head coach.
I look. We're going to lose some games. Every team loses games, but I don't expect to see many games that run away from us in terms of runs. I think if we lose, it's going to be a 1 or 2 run deal. Where, like you said earlier, the other pitcher was just having a good night. Sometimes it
Happens.
really doesn't matter who you have in your lineup and how hot they are. The truth of the matter is, the reason that those pitchers get paid so much money in the major leagues is, the most valuable players, is because if one of them is having a good night, it's just lights out for the other team. So again, when you talk about depth and you talk about guys that can come in there and get hot, I mean, there's still 1, 2, 3, 4 guys on the team that haven't given up a run yet. Okay. And that's Evans and Myers are in that group of guys. So several have only given up 1 run. William Schmidt, Connor Ware, Zach Cowan, Jaden Newt. I mean,
And Cooper
there's some
Williams that doesn't give it up an earned run yet.
Connor Williams as well. Cooper Williams, sorry, I might not have mentioned him. But you look down at the quote unquote the bottom, and you see guys like Cade Woods and Maverick Rizzi, and that's not going to stay like that. Maverick Rizzi is going to get plenty of opportunity, as well he should, just because he is something you don't want to deal with out there on the mound.
Well, Charlie and I have known Dana Brown personally for over 20 years and have always trusted him and his team of attorneys at the law offices of O.C. Brown for all of our legal needs. You can trust them too. They're a family-owned law firm, and Dana's carried his father, O.C.'s legacy for the last 30 years. Whether you've been in a car accident or made a mistake and broke the law offices of O.C. Brown should be your first and only call. They truly are your law firm for a lifetime. You can call them at 225-343-1111 or on the web at www.oc, that's O-S-S-I-E Brown.com. Doug, heading into this weekend, your thoughts on the weekend coming up as we close it down for this week's edition of the Hannycast?
Don't change anything. Keep throwing strikes. Keep challenging hitters until they start hitting the ball out of the ballpark. But I think it's right where you are. Stay there and try to stay there the rest of the year. They're playing good baseball. We've outlined it. They're playing good defense. They're pitching well, and they're getting the timely hits. So I think the objective for this weekend is to stay right where you are and do the same things you've been doing.
Well, great. Well, Doug, thanks for being with us and pinch hitting for Charlie. But folks, we're going to have Doug on the show, in short segments, talk about Thompson's take on the weekend each week on the Hannycast. We look forward to seeing you next week. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And thanks. And don't forget to like us.